Gonna lose weight and become a bitch. And I said, well, I didn't get a personality transplant. I'm still me. Still have all the life experiences that I have had. I still, um, which is super interesting because I find like sometimes the most humble people, the partner is like, I'm afraid they're not going to be nice and humble anymore. And I'm like, I have a feeling that's going to continue. They're not going to, and yes, could that happen? Sure. And then we'll talk about it. So like the partner's like, I'm afraid this is going to happen. I'm like, well, there's going to be a period in between. So, like, maybe we should talk during that period before it's a big jump to be like, she's going to wake up from surgery and be like, I'm hot and I'm out of here and you're stuck with the bill. Like, have they ever done anything like that before?
Hey guys, it's Mel, your host of the Cutting Edge podcast. This is a show where we talk transformation from every angle: body, mind, and confidence, with a little sparkle and a whole lot of truth. I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Dr. Omar Beidas, and the plastic surgery pro, and Ashlyn Douglass-Barnes, our go-to therapist and mindset queen. Now, quick disclaimer, none of us are your doctor or therapist. We are just here sharing real talk, real stories, and real growth. So grab your protein shake, settle in, and let's get into it. This is The Cutting Edge.
Hey, it's Ashlyn. Just one more thing before we begin. I will be sharing some of my own plastic surgery journey, which is personal to me and may not reflect what others go through. And if you're a current client of mine, please talk with me first before listening, because knowing personal details about me could affect your therapy. And your well-being always comes first. Now on to the show.
Welcome to the Cutting Edge podcast, and I am your host, Mel. And I have with me two amazing experts and that really put this all together. I'm so happy that we're doing this because we're learning so much about our mindset, going into plastic surgery, what to do, what it looks like. So I am so happy that they are co-hosting with me. So thank you, Ashlyn.
Yep. I'm Ashlyn Douglass-Barnes. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, a bariatric therapist, and a bariatric patient who has had skin removal surgery.
Yeah, she's our unicorn.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's true. And I'm Omar Beidas. I'm a plastic surgeon, board certified, and I practice in Orlando, Florida.
Yes, you guys are both in Orlando.
Yes, which is
It's
kind of
true.
ironic.
This is, I'm like, okay, over here on the West Coast.
And you're on the like you couldn't be further away
Right.
and be still maybe Alaska, I guess, or Hawaii and still be in the United States, continental US. How about that?
But yeah, we're inland. We're on land. So what's funny is a lot of my friends are in Florida, and it drives me nuts, guys, because I don't really want to go back for a while. So
You must.
I know I must. There's too much to do over there. I just have to learn to love it. It's fine.
There's a direct flight with Alaska.
I know. You know what it is? I just need to go on a trip there with no Disney.
Yeah. There's plenty of other things to do here besides Disney.
That's right. We have some plans, so I'm excited. And I know when I do come, I'll get to hang out with Dr. Beidas and see the fan band too. So, guys, we're actually doing a part 2 today, part 2 of support, because there's always like two sides to the coin, right? So we talked a lot about the positive stuff, what to do, how to get support on the episode before this. And this one is going to be like, what do you do when your sport's not good?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like it sucks. So, Ashlyn, what do we do? You are our mindset lady.
Yes. So, when I was thinking of this subject, I was thinking like what would be the steps that we would take or where would we start? And I was thinking more of like the unsupportive partner or spouse.
Okay.
So like the person that potentially would be more of an automatic for you to think they would take care of you post surgery. And so maybe you're really excited about it, but your partner either is like outwardly saying to you, I'm not excited, or you're a little concerned about where they stand on things. Maybe they're making more passive aggressive comments, or, well, you get to put yourself first and you're going to spend all this money, or things that you're just like, but you're okay with me doing this, right? And they're like, yeah. But then their behavior maybe isn't lining up with that. So I think like many things, like the first thing is to have a conversation about it.
Yes.
And I think this can be really challenging because a lot of times, like, especially those passive aggressive comments where it's like, I'm saying I'm supportive, but then I'm doing something that appears that I'm not. Those can be more challenging because sometimes, particularly for the people giving the passive aggressive comments, sometimes it's hard that they are having a hard time verbalizing exactly how they feel. They just know that they're like not 100%.
Yeah.
And so that requires a much deeper conversation than maybe they're potentially ready to have, or they don't really know why they feel the way they do. But I
Sounds
think,
like my kids arguing over a
Right?
toy or something.
right. And you're like, okay, well, tell me how this happened or what. And they're like, it's me,
I,
it's mine.
I presume it's a
Right.
coping mechanism, right? The passive aggressive comments is like just someone's way of coping with it without actually saying something.
Yeah, because usually it's because they feel that directly saying something will not get them the outcome. Like they'll have to deal with it, they'll have to
In a
talk
fight.
about it,
Yeah.
they'll actually have to explain themselves, and that can be tough for those folks.
Can you help the audience know, like, what does passive aggressive comments look like? Because sometimes it happens and you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Hey friends, this episode is sponsored by findabariatrictherapist.com because bariatric life is full of ups and downs and everything in between, but you don't have to go through it alone. Findabariatrictherapist.com makes it easy to connect with therapists who truly understand your journey, the mindset shifts, the identity changes, and all the real life challenges that come after surgery. Because therapy designed for bariatric patients changes everything. Visit findabariatrictherapist.com and find your support today.
So, in general, it is a negative comment that's made either as joking, indirectly. It's not someone specifically saying, I don't support you or I feel this way. It's a comment that indirectly states that. It's probably a better way of explaining it
Mhm.
if either of you have a better way of explaining that. But so it would probably look something like, yeah, like you're going to spend all this money, but you're going to go ahead and spend all this money. I'm the one. And so some people be like, well, that kind of seems direct. They're not saying, I don't want you to spend all this money. They're
No.
saying, well, you're going to spend all this money. Or, well, at least you're putting yourself first, right? Again, that kind of
Yeah.
tone.
And you can feel it.
I imagine it can be something along the lines too. I mean, especially like you talk about these surgeries and the recovery, right? So that means not being able to do certain things for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, maybe delaying plans, right? So, well, now we can't take this trip or we can't do this because you're doing this surgery. I can imagine someone, you know, kind of putting a comment out
Right.
like that.
And it's a very different tone when I say, oh, we're probably going to have to put that plan we had off for 2 weeks. Yeah. Versus, well, I guess we're going to have to put that plan off for 2 weeks. Like
Hmm.
it's a
Yeah.
different, sometimes, or often, it can be more of a tonal, like a tone that someone has with
And
someone.
somehow it's your fault.
Right.
Yeah,
And I'm
they're
not
making
really
your
inviting
surgery.
you
Mhm.
to have the conversation. And I think that's the problem because in those moments, we actually need to invite our partner to have the conversation. And that may not be the right time. Maybe we pick another time. Maybe we, especially if it's being said at a point of like where a lot of other things are causing stress. So like the kids are screaming, you need to, I don't know, you're filling the dishwasher and you're asking your husband to do something for you. It's like, oh, well, everyone has to do something for you. And you're like,
You're like, what?
okay, this probably isn't the time to deal with it, but it clearly is bothering them. So, like, let's get the kids to bed. Let's sit down and have an adult conversation and be like, hey, earlier I heard what you said and I realized that maybe this is stressful for you, or because we're going to want to do what I call like inviting like the way that we're going to have this conversation is like, I want to invite you to talk to me about it
Yes.
versus fighting words. Like, I heard your tone earlier. Because what am I going to do? I'm going to come back and
Yeah,
come
because
back
now
at you.
your tone is like that. So now we're gonna get defensive, like automatic. Yeah.
Yeah. And because the reality is you are kind of curious. Like I always talk to my clients a lot, like use curiosity in those moments. Like what's coming up for you? What are you feeling about this? Like what are you worried about? What are you concerned about? Um and I always tell like throw it out there. Are you worried that we don't have the money? Are you worried that I'm gonna die? Are you worried that you
Hmm.
don't really want to take care of the kids? Are you worried like I'm gonna
My
leave
mom
you?
over.
Yeah, my mom's gonna come over and help and tell you you suck. Yeah, like what is the work? Because like we can work on all of those together. So if you're worried about the money, let's actually talk about the money. You're worried about my mom coming over, let's actually make a plan because if you can step up and do what I need you to do, mom doesn't have to come.
Yeah, she's not to be here and be in your space and be that some mother-in-laws are a lot. That's what we'll say. you know?
And in
And
some situations, your mother-in-law being there is great. I
yep.
love my mother. My mother-in-law came with all my surgeries, and it took a load off my husband because he knew his mom was there, and him and her and I get along great.
See?
But
Then
again,
that's
it's like
the
that
thing.
conversation, like, let's actually talk about it. And then this creates foundations for other hard conversations
Right.
that we may need to have in the future. And so it's always worth it. So like sometimes the clients are like, "Well, these kind of conversations never go well." Yeah, but if you could have one that went well, that kind of builds this
Build.
foundation that you could have another one. So maybe what they're saying is, "I'm afraid about the money," and then you talk about the money, and then you're like, "Is it really that you're afraid I'm going to die?"
Right.
Right.
Well,
Hmm.
that would be awful. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let's, the same thing with bariatrics. When I have
Mhm.
patients that are worried about that or their partner are, let's actually talk to the surgeon about the medical likelihood something would happen and what I can do to ensure as much as within my ability to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right.
That's why I'm paying extra money so I can have it in the hospital. That's why I don't smoke. That's why I lost all the weight that I could before we went in. That's why I made sure my sleep apnea is well under controlled. Like we have so much information, so much more information going into an elective surgery than we do an unplanned surgery.
Yeah.
And so, what are the things that we do? And yes, there's still going to be a chance that something awful could happen, but it's like we're going to negate as much as we can. Do you ever have partners come in, Dr. Beidas, and like ask about stuff like that? Like more from a safety standpoint?
To be honest, it's shocking how few people's partners come in when they have the consultation, and even sometimes I recommend them at least coming, like bringing their partner, or if they're younger, a parent or whatever, some family or sibling, to the pre-op visit, which is the visit a few weeks before surgery. Um, I think people are more likely to bring someone then, but I definitely see typical consultations are like just the patient
I could see that. I could see that. I could see like because consultation for me is still a maybe.
thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So until it's like confirmed that I'm going to do something, then I'll bring my partner in. But I definitely want someone with me. I don't think I want to ever go through like the rest of the process by myself. Like I want
Which
them to hear all the things because what I've learned being the support person for others is like they hear one thing and you hear a different thing,
Hmm.
right? Like sometimes it matches a little like pretty close and sometimes it doesn't at all. So like you need to have the extra set of ears, people, just for that reason because you hear they're giving you a lot of information, so you're missing things. And it's not intentional. And sometimes you just need to process that you actually need a 24-hour for your brain to go like, oh, this is all the things that Dr. Beta said. Like, and maybe, and then go over it with your support person. So that way, like you guys are both on the same page. Like,
There's a few studies that have shown that patients retain about 20% of what you tell them. So if you have two people, that's 40% if there's no overlap of what they took away from that, or maybe less if they remember the same things. So
did your office give like the book, like a book that has a bunch of stuff in it? My surgeon gave me like a book, and then I went over because I was just thinking I didn't bring anyone to any of my
really?
appointments. My mother-in-law drove me a couple times when I couldn't drive, but especially because the office was an hour plus from my house and I had my husband go right back to work. So it's
I don't know
interesting.
that
I
we do a
didn't
book,
really
but
think
we
of that.
we do give like paperwork at the consult. We give a lot of paperwork at the pre-op. What we're working on now is we've gone to the studio and done videos that hopefully once they're done and edited, they'll be online. So if someone's like, I don't remember the part about the drain, there's a sheet with a QR code they can scan and they're like, here's your drain care. This is the section about drain care. And a lot of the pre-op stuff can be done on video and they can go back and rewatch it.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
Yeah,
sweet.
mine had a book, but essentially it was paperwork, but it was all like, these are all the things you can't take.
Uh-huh.
These are all
Yeah.
the, like, when you stop things. And that was helpful because I definitely like went back and was like,
What
can
was that
I
again?
do
Yeah.
that? Can I, like, when can I swim or when can I, even though
Hmm.
it was actually different than what was in the book in the end, but just so like I knew and I could review it and then let whoever was helping me. Um, but even when I went to like the compression lady, someone had to drive me, but they weren't like in there.
I do think it's
Very
helpful
independent.
for like, huh?
So she's very independent.
That
Yeah.
I think unfortunately 'Cause it didn't even occur to me till you just said that, like, I probably should have brought some.
I mean, Mel, to kind of against your point though of not bringing someone to the consult, at least in our office, and I think I mean, maybe Ashton, your experience is different. In my office, you only meet me at the consult, and then if you don't come back to ask me more questions, you're going to see my PA or nurse practitioner who can answer a lot of the questions you might have at the pre-op.
Okay.
I mean, they can answer 99.9% of questions. It's pretty rare they have to defer back to me. But the next time you'll meet me is in the day of surgery.
Oh shit. So
Um,
then we really should take them to the console.
I think so. I think it's helpful. I think it's helpful to hear all the information, to have two sets of ears, different people, your partner or whoever you bring, your friend, your mom, a parent, um, might think of different questions than you think.
Right.
And I mean, again, I don't mind getting on the phone with patients if spouses have questions. It's happened a few times. My younger patients will sometimes bring a parent with them. Typically, we're talking like under 25 or 30. Generally, that's like the first surgery they've ever had, so they want someone else with them there. But I definitely think it's helpful to have a second set of ears.
I do too. I do too. And I know mine stems from a lot. Like, well, Ashley was talking, I was like, oh shit, there's a whole validation situation for me of why I want someone there when it comes to serious things. And it's because like I need someone to confirm that I heard what I heard. And I need confirmation that like when we're with people that like I can look at someone and we can talk about it with people, and then now everyone kind of understands and it's not just me explaining it like verbatim. Because I don't know what it is. I do need that reassurance of like, wait, did you hear that? I need to know.
It's funny because I feel like, and I think it's just your trauma history and my trauma history are different. Like, I don't want anyone else to impact what I decide or be like, well, what about this? I don't need your input there. Like, I will decide what I will decide, and I will hear what I will hear, and then I will decide that I heard it. But I think more that's just like, if you've been in situations where someone tells you you heard it wrong or you're wrong, like,
Yeah, that's what you do.
I,
That's what you do.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
in my family, during any trauma that we've ever had, like there's always been other people with us. Like
Hmm.
we're a very supportive family. We do a lot of things together. You guys see that online. Like we like, and especially if anybody of them on the extension has issues, like we're there. So it's definitely a camaraderie. Like it's very comfortable to be able to have just at least one person to be like, all
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And I would say I saw actual doctor, like actual surgeon on the consultation. She was around for pre-op, would just pop in and be like, super excited to see you in a week. But like someone
Mhm.
else is her PA is doing, or MP is doing the intake, which was actually good because you end up seeing them more often, and I was quite used to them. But she was always around and would pop in because they, I think, clinic on the same day. So like she'd pop in, but the MP would do most of the
Yeah, I mean, for
chatting.
sure, we try to do that, kind of like you said. But sometimes the patient's like, I don't want to, my clinic day is Thursdays. They're like, well, I don't want to come in on a Thursday for my pre-op. We're not going to make them, right? So then they come in on a Tuesday and I'm not there. So if they have questions, and again, it's not that there's no other means of communicating with us, but my point is this really the time with the surgeon is the consult, and we try to maximize that time.
And I
Um,
think too, it's important that just like in bariatrics, your NPs and PAs are highly skilled and highly trained. Like I have a
Absolutely.
lot of
That's why I said
clients. Yeah.
they can answer most of the questions. It's rare that they have to defer to me. So they've been with me for years and they're just as skilled. I mean, I know that's maybe not the case everywhere. So there's always times where people are say, well, the PA, I want to see the doctor, I want to see the doctor. We try to really harp. These people are with me, like, and if we try to keep it in a way where if a APP is what we call them, it's a general term for nurse practitioners and PAs. But if an APP sees you for the pre-op, 99% of the time, that's the PA who did your surgery, and he or she's going to do your post-ops. So they
Okay.
are kind of your caretaker, kind of hand in hand with the surgeon for your care.
Got it. So the whole
Yeah,
time.
because the same in
All the time.
bariatrics. Sometimes my clients will complain and they're like, I don't get to see I was like, he would like to do surgery.
Yeah.
All the other people in the office are helping you with your aftercare. I get it, but it's like, it is kind of funny because sometimes the surgeon will reach out to me and be like, can you tell her that the PA is great? I'm like, no, she knows the PA is great. She just wants to
Yeah.
confirm. But it's funny because they end up seeing more patients than the surgeon does. in bariatrics.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's more of an authority thing, right? Like when you
I
hear
think so.
the surgeon,
Mhm.
you're like, this is Bible or whatever. But when a PA says, and I love the PAs, but it's not definitive. It's like, well, technically, I wonder if I asked Dr. Beige, you could get something different, So
Yeah.
it's that whole mentality, if you have that mentality. So
And I would say if you attempt all those conversations and things are still not getting to a place where you feel like that person could be supportive, if you can agree that you are going to, if you're still going to do it, if you feel committed to doing it, creating a plan so that you still get the support that you need. And what that may look like is the person who isn't supportive is not around when so you go to your mom's house or you have a hotel, or, whoever that support person is. Like if it really gets to a stalemate, like it is okay. And I think, again, like having those conversations, I know it may be challenging because you don't really fully want to see. And sometimes too, it's from, I don't want to see you in pain. Like that's a really common reaction from partners. Like when they actually think deep down, I feel helpless. I remember I had this couple and it took forever. I was like, we could not get to the bottom of this, right? And finally he was like, I can't see you when you're in pain and I can't fix it.
That's
It makes me
interesting.
feel not like a man. It makes me feel useless and helpless. And I don't know what to do when you're in pain and I can't handle it.
yeah,
And we were like,
there it
okay,
is.
great.
Yeah.
That's much
That's
better
actually
than
not
why
a
don't give a
bad
shit
reason.
about you.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Right.
not a bad reason, I would say.
Right. And I think for a lot of people, men and women in this case, that is a silly thing to say, but that in both, that with all people, that like sometimes it's really hard to get down to like, what is it about this that really bothers me? What
What
is it about this that's really
so
upsetting or
that's
bringing something up?
I was gonna ask you, in your experience, what are like the top 3 reasons? I imagine
So,
one of them's finances,
you know what the funny thing about finances is when you get down to
an
it,
excuse
no,
or a scapegoat.
it's the thing below that. So what would that mean? So like in therapy, I talk about, okay, tell me some stuff about money for you. And they'll be like, growing up, someone made an error. Someone overextended themselves. Something happened surrounding money and everything fell apart. Most of us could manage even a car payment on a credit card. Like whatever, like it wouldn't be great, but it wouldn't be ruinous.
We
It
gotta do
wouldn't be
shit.
ruinous.
Yeah.
Like you could show on a budget, we can do our care credit payment. It's going to be $333. It's not even a car payment these days. It's probably half a car payment. But when we actually talk about the financial stuff, because one person will be very factual and be like, we can so do this. This is not a big deal. What it actually is about is feeling a sense of money in the bank makes me feel like we're in control or nothing bad can happen. So usually there's a money story in their history somewhere about either a family member that like loses the farm, so a bad decision, usually in business, that led to catastrophic. It's usually a grandparent or parent. So this is a passed down story about you have very secure jobs, you have very secure, you're not entrepreneurs, like you have very, very steady money in the bank equals security. So if we're spending our savings, that means you're taking security away from me or from us. And if I lost my job, the whole thing would tumble. And it's not usually very based in logic, which is why the other person is like, I don't understand. And for them, maybe their money story is, well, it's fine. You lose your job, we'll get another one. My dad had a business, it fell apart, but then that gave him the opportunity to get this even better business. So, like, talking about money stories, it's usually more surrounding, like, what historically has happened surrounding money and what does that mean for you. It's very different for me when I think about savings or than someone else who comes in and they're like, oh, I have to have $50,000 savings in the bank and it can't be touched. And that's the only way I could sleep at night.
Hmm.
And I think
Whew.
$50,000 is safe. But then I would understand when the partner is like, I'm going to spend 12,000. We're going to have $38,000 still in the bank. Like,
Right.
we're fine.
We're totally
That's
fine.
like half your salary after taxes for you. Like, you'd have 6 months, but the rainy day fund doesn't actually get spent for rainy days. It just creates safety in knowing that it's there. So it's more complicated, but yeah,
I'm kind of doing that right now,
which makes
like,
sense.
like legit right now, because I have a savings that has just a little bit in it, but it's been sitting there for the past 3 months because I'm like, I don't want to touch it. I don't have to touch it. I don't have to touch it. Right.
Right.
So I'm like,
That's safety.
I'm doing
Smart.
whatever I can to keep just this in the savings and keeping everything else going. And so that way I have it if I do have to use it. Like, I'm just like, okay, well, it's still there. We're good. We're still there. All right. Like, and it is a whole safety thing. And it feels good to know that you still have that. Like in your brain, you're like, no, but that's still there. Just remember.
So I would say
Because I got a car
money.
coming up. And I'm like, okay. So
Yeah.
it's like, here we go. But like Ashlyn knows, and like been telling people online, like I'm door dashing. And I have no problem saying it. Like I actually really enjoy it. It is super mundane, but I love it.
No, but it's completion of task.
Yeah,
There's a
like
part of
it's
your
so much
brain.
done.
Yes, done. Reward, little money.
Is that
Like
what
for
it
some
is?
people,
It's all the
yeah,
little dopamine hits. That's
yeah,
what it is.
completion, task completion. Some people hate task completion, and some people are like
Love it.
task completion.
Dude,
Which I
I
have to have task completion. If I had to look at spreadsheets and it never ended, and it was always just more and more and more, that would drive me nuts.
Some people don't like task completion. Sounds
Correct,
like
because
psychopaths.
task completion is generally not predictable. Where like spreadsheets where you go on and on and on, it never ends. You show up, you do some more. There's like no like pressure. I'm not a person who likes that. So sometimes again, like people that come to me and are like, I would never want a job that like there's pressure and timelines but those spreadsheets, like it goes on and it's very predictable. Every month you do the same thing. I would die.
that's
Like being an
security for them.
analyst,
Yeah, no.
analyzing
That's what it is. Because I
spreadsheets.
feel really good. Like I only go out for like 3-4 hours a day, and that's it. And I'm just like, but I feel good because I'm like, oh, I got all like my work done here, and I DoorDash.
Plus, then you also have control for more or less. I want to go, I go. So again, a sense of, especially when things feel out of control, if we can feel like control over here, we're like, yes, I need more money today. I'm going to go another 2 hours, but you get to choose that, not someone like, we're going to pay you.
Yeah, because like one time I was like, okay, well, if it doesn't ding by the time I get to X street, like I'm going home.
They're going home. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is kind of funny on a low level. It's kind of like gambling, right? So I'm going to hit the machine like 3 more times. And if I don't get the winner, I'm going to go home. And then you hit the winner or hit some winning and you're like, okay, 3 more.
Like 3
It's the
more.
same system. Yeah.
Well, I'm not a gambler. That fucking scares the shit out of me. But I'm using the gambling brain to earn money.
But that's how you're, yeah.
Okay. Fun fact about gambling addiction. I think I said this on a podcast. I don't know if you remember. What is the number one indication that you may develop? Like, what is the event that often leads to people who end up with gambling addiction?
No idea.
The event. It's a clue.
Like, what do you mean the event? Like
something that is actually predictable beyond like how your brain is wired. Like what is something that happens when we look at like if we survey like 100 people who end up with gambling addiction, what is something that a lot of them will tell us
has happened
in their lives, like something in their past?
Mm-hmm.
Their parents left them. I don't know.
Dog died?
No. You guys are going sad. No, the first time they gambled. The first time they won.
They won. They won. Yeah, okay.
And they won big. Not like $4. They won big because most of us head into gambling with the understanding that the house always wins.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you win big the first time, you're rewiring that part that you're lucky. There's something different about you. There's something special and if you win the second time, you're screwed. So yeah, now there are people that a lot of times
the house is going to win on you, like in the next 10 years now.
But it's really fascinating when you look at now. There's also like higher rates of ADHD and autism just because of some brain wiring stuff that we see with gambling addiction. But like that is to me that's so fascinating. So I always tell people like when you go to play the first time, I'm like make sure you lose a good amount of money so we get that wiring all set that like you lose.
That's so.
But
I don't play.
I mean, I guess. But Ashlyn, I mean, big can be different to different people, right? Like
correct.
Someone who.
So if you're super poor and you won $1,000, that could feel like $1 million to someone who has accessible money.
Oh, that
it's just super fascinating. Yeah. Gambling addiction is just super fascinating in general because there's just a lot of interesting entities. Like you get to be somebody the casinos like play into that you're important. So you may not have that feeling anywhere else. So everybody knows your name, you get free things, everyone crowds around you when important things happen. So if you feel like a loser in the rest of your life and then you come to the casino, you get to be someone. You're a high roller. You're gonna have fancy dinners comped, and then you can't go home and afford pizza. It's like very, very like two lives dichotomous. So
Mm.
I do not specialize in that. Please don't come to me if you've gambling. We can work on it a little bit, but like that's a very specialized treatment that I can refer you to great people. Especially actually Orlando has like one of the most, I don't want to say world renowned because I keep saying that tonight, not outside of a recording, but like one of the top people in gambling addiction actually is in Orlando. So he's a really interesting guy too. And he runs and handles a lot of our, so just like Alcoholics Anonymous, there's Gamblers Anonymous, or Debtors Anonymous, which is shopping or spending money. But it's a really interesting, gambling has a little nuance to it from shopping. But anyways, okay, so.
Yeah, wait, top 3 things. Money?
Yeah, okay, money.
Back to our question.
Second thing, I would say some form of, you're going to think it's jealousy but at the bottom is abandonment. So just like money is really security, jealousy, and that tends to be fear of abandonment. So
like
you're going to
looking
get
good and then leaving that person, you mean?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So when they
Like
say,
I'm gonna get my hot
"Oh,
summer body and I'm gonna find myself a new sugar daddy or
yeah," and so that will get a lot of like those passive aggressive comments about how they're going to look better than you're going to look better than me. I'm going to have to go to the gym. All those men, women, whoever you are going to be fawning all over you. You're going to have to beat them off. So it sometimes it'll also sound like beat them off as a stick. It'll sound like a backwards compliment. Like you're going to get so hot that people are, and you're like, well, that's an interesting. So again, that kind of fear that things would change. You become vain. You're going to become a jerk. I always remind people, I had a close friend that was like, oh, I thought you were going to become a bitch. You're going to lose weight and become a bitch. And I said, well, I didn't get a personality transplant. I'm still me, still have all the life experiences that I have had. I still, which is super interesting because I find like sometimes the most humble people, the partner is like, I'm afraid they're not going to be nice and humble anymore. And I'm like, I have a feeling that's going to continue. They're not going to, and yes, could that happen? Sure. And then we'll talk about it. So like the partner's like, I'm afraid this is going to happen. I'm like, well, there's going to be a period in between. So like maybe we should talk during that period before it's a big jump to be like, she's going to wake up from surgery and be like, I'm hot and I'm out of here and you're stuck with the bill. Like, have they ever done anything like that before? And then they're like, no. And they're like, okay, did any, but that has again more to do with abandonment or fear that they'd be left.
It sounds in that situation too, is that they have this stereotype in their head, like, oh, if they're this skinny, they're going to be a bitch.
Yeah.
So then,
or if they get huge boobs or a new butt, or they're going to get rid of their stomach, or they're going to get new legs. I don't know. Yeah. You're a leg man.
No, like those people are bitches. Like,
no. And chances are they're not going to look like a porn star. So like and again, this sometimes is a good time, again, if I'm the therapist here, to like make sure that the partner has realistic expectations or has a good idea.
The patient or the partner.
No, the partner. So if the partner thinks they're going to wake up looking like a porn star.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
We should have a chat about that because that's not how this is going to happen. This is again,
maybe depending on who your surgeon is, that might be possible.
But it's still on the reconstruction, like functional side. So they're not going to wake up looking like that. Though I guess sometimes, you're swelling and stuff. But
depending on your surgeon.
That's true. We should preface that. That is true. But again, it's like she removes her stomach, she's going to look like a porn star. Again, so it's like, what is the real fear? So let's say they put it back on there like, oh, I'm afraid they become vain. I'm like, okay, and then what would happen? I'm like, well, she'd be vain. And I'm like, right? And then how would that affect you? What would happen? You'd live with a vain person? Well, I wouldn't stay if she was going to be vain. I'm like, okay, so you're afraid if this happens, the two of you will no longer be together? One or both of you will leave each other? Well, maybe. I'm like, okay, cool. Do you have any feelings you need to leave him for any reason? Well, if he's not going to support me with the surgery, I'm like, oh, okay, so let's talk about that, because the funny thing is oftentimes the behavior that is driving I don't want you to leave me is actually making them want to leave you.
Right.
True.
Being
Yeah, that's a good point.
non-supportive, showing that you're not a supportive partner, whatever the thing is, actually is pushing them more toward it. And it's you again. This is why we know, like, root cause, like the underlying fear is not necessarily. I think I'm frozen.
You know?
Okay, good. I'm not frozen. Okay. That I think that, and now I lost my train of thought.
The underlying fear, I think you were going to say something along like the underlying fear is not necessarily what they're bringing up. They're making
Right.
statements like,
Right. So,
again, it's a
hold on.
coping mechanism or.
Yes. And so how can we actually get to underlying? Because that we can actually talk about. You
Right.
predicting that they're going to be vain, something that hasn't even happened yet, we can't really do anything about that.
Mm-mm.
But if your fear is that being left, then we can talk about connection and bringing you two together. Because I can do that from like right now.
Yeah.
And the first way we're going to do that is figuring out how you can be supportive. And if you can't truly be supportive, how you can get out of the way.
Get out of
so
the
that
way.
you
Yes.
still, yeah.
Move.
And sometimes I tell my clients will be like, well, I don't want to be a jerk. And sometimes too, there's fear around like, I'm not going to be a very good caretaker. I
Yeah.
don't really like anticipate her needs very well. Like when she had her baby, it was like terrible. I felt like this and sometimes too, like stuff will get brought up about that, particularly for men. Their wife had a baby and then they had no idea how to help them. And that brought in all these insecurities about like they suck at caretaking. It was like a really tough time in their relationship. And they're like, I don't want to do that again. And I was like, cool, we can fix that. So what was he's like, I never knew what to do. And then I'd say, just tell me what to do. And then she'd say, you have eyes. You could see what to do. And he'd be like, but I couldn't figure it out. Cause like that bottle thing that heated it up and I didn't want to make and again, so I was
feel like you're describing most couples now.
Yes. And that's the funny thing. And so we never talked about it. And so now it's like, so when I had this one I'm thinking of right now where he was like, and she's like, why couldn't you use this? I got the easiest one for you. All you had to do is hit the button. He's like, I didn't know that. He's like, what if I scalded the baby and then I'm going to go to jail and then I'm a terrible dad? And I'm like, wow, that escalated fast. So it was interesting because this was a bariatric. So they were trying to figure out post-bariatric. And she's like, I'm just going to go see my mom. And he's like, oh, now the therapist thinks I'm a terrible husband. And I was like, okay, like, let's back up. I don't think anybody's terrible. But we actually wanted to like talk about like, what is this? And so then we could actually talk about the situation with the baby, because I think it was really important that like he talk about how hard it was to see his wife where it all seemed to come natural to her. She just knew when the baby was hungry and she just knew what the baby needed. And he was like, the baby just cried. How did she know it was like not a poop cry or it was a bottle cry? And I was like, she probably didn't, but she had this little pattern. And then you probably didn't notice the little pattern. She's like, well, I didn't know if he pooped. I checked.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was hungry. I fed him or whatever. So again, then we can kind of talk through some of that, which is good because that's a little foundation crack that we found. And then we're like, whoop, we can put that back together. Because really in that situation, at least, the husband was saying, I really wanted to do the right thing and be a good dad. And it really hurt me because I didn't have a good dad. And so again, there's like even more layers there.
Well, it sounds a lot of it's from communication too. Like they're not communicating to each
Mhm.
other what's kind of freaking them out. Like,
which makes sense.
Yeah.
Right after you have a baby, it may be hard to be like, I'm having a hard time identifying something that's coming no, like the house is burning down and you're like, like.
And there's a screaming baby.
Right.
Literally.
And there's a baby, like, I don't know what to do. So it's like, and no one's sleeping and no one's eating. It's like, it makes sense. When you look in couple satisfaction right after having a baby, it's like the lowest satisfaction most couples will ever have in the history of their entire relationship. Even though it's supposed to be this like time of like, yay, everything's great and wonderful. It's like, no, we're trying to keep
It's
alive a
stressful.
baby. And there's all these decisions that you can research and it says both are right.
Yeah, and
Both
you don't know if you're
opposites
doing
are
the right
true.
thing or not.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's like co-sleep,
the
don't
worst
co-sleep.
time. I mean,
Vaccinate,
kids are
don't
great.
vaccinate. And then you can find the exact amount of information that all sounds very like, anyways. So, okay. So, and then the third thing.
Okay. So the first one is money. Second one, we're calling it
Abandonment.
Avoidance of abandonment, but also like what it may come out of is I'm afraid you're going to get vain or you're going to change.
Yeah. Or leave.
Is the third one and I'm taking a shot on the dark here, but I just hear this a lot is like they just don't think I should do that. I don't know if that's the reason or not, but like they love me the way I am and they don't think I should be doing this. But I don't know if that comes from like a safety, like they're afraid I'm going to die, like what the underlying cause
I
is there,
think
and if
that could
that's the
be
third.
either I don't want them to leave me, like a version of that.
Okay.
It could be I have met people who, and I realize I'm probably on the other side of the spectrum where like I feel like no surgeon is going to take a risk of me dying for their liability insurance. So like
What do you mean?
I feel very confident with any surgeon that does surgery for me.
You'd be surprised, but okay.
I agreed. And so again, I'm probably a little too much on the trusting side.
Okay.
And then I have clients that are like, "Well, ask the surgeon how many patients
Every
have
surgeon
died under
sucks.
your watch."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "You asked him how many
I've had
people
people ask
got-"
me that.
And I'm like, I can't
I
believe
have.
it.
It's and actually I've had it very like it seems like I've had it asked much more
How did
commonly
they
in the
even
last
ask
like
you?
6 months.
Oh, just straight up, probably like
Yeah,
how
how
many
many people
patients
have
have you
died
had
while
that
you're
died?
operating? Or yeah, how many of you had die? I mean,
I would never ask that. But again, I'm
I wouldn't either. I
very
looked up.
trusting.
It's online,
but
actually.
you can't. I don't think it's online.
At least
On
for
the board of Florida, we could see if you had any action against your liability.
License, but I don't think you can.
No,
You
liability too on the last page.
yeah, but you won't see how many people died under their
No,
care
but I'm going to assume
unless
if
you were
someone dies,
sued.
then someone's going to sue you.
Um,
Good,
oh,
bad, or
that
indifferent.
was because someone looked up my like Dr. Patterson, and they're like, "Oh yeah, she's great. Like she's only had a few people try to sue her, and no deaths." And we're like, "Cool, there
yeah,
you go."
I mean, I
Maybe,
don't know
whatever.
that if you have someone die necessarily you'll get sued, but for sure it would be a high likelihood that you might get a lawsuit at least. Yeah, I guess that's a good way of looking at it.
Oh, I
So
think that.
again, don't be me.
Sorry.
You should ask questions. You should be very scrupulous. I also think again, this is my own like if you're part of a big hospital system, they probably also don't want to get sued.
Correct.
Fair.
Mayo Clinic really doesn't want to get sued.
I mean, none of them do. So just fucking everybody do what they're supposed to do.
But
So what's the
I think
third?
okay, so the third, I would probably say something surrounding like safety, like not even that they're gonna die, but like I don't know, the husband looked up where like the person's arm fell off and then they didn't have an arm, or like their I
Hmm.
don't know, the some
Complications, maybe. Yeah.
yeah, maybe complications, prolonged healing
Risk.
periods,
Yeah. The
um,
riskiness.
riskiness,
Risk,
yeah.
like,
And if it's elective, I think some people feel even more so
Mm-hmm.
concerned because if something bad happened, it happened under this I've had where the partner says, then something would have happened under my watch. Like I didn't ask enough questions, I didn't research it enough, I didn't
well, because they look to you.
yeah.
Being as a support person is a little intimidating because, like, when I was taking care of Eric's wounds, which is basically what they would be doing for plastics, you're taking care of wounds, right? So I would go to all of his follow-up appointments and be like, they're looking at you of like, okay, how many times did you change this? Like, how clean did it, like, what'd you use? Whatever. And if it came back, I know personally, like, he was having problems like closing on the ankle side. And I would just be like, okay, I did this many times. I would explain everything thorough. And then they're like, okay, you did a great job. Like, like I needed that reassurance, like you did like this well. And then if he wasn't healing fine, I go, did I do anything wrong? Because like that was I felt like it was on my like you're saying, like, hey, you're under fucking my watch. So don't you fuck
Yeah.
up, don't you do shit.
So
I
like
actually,
there's a dynamic there about that.
yeah, because like now I feel like I'm fully responsible for you. Like on and more than to I would say almost like to a doctor nurse level because you're like, wait, you're under my care. Like, don't get up when you're not supposed to get up. Like, don't be like grabbing food, lifting like you're not supposed to be. Like me and Eric had that dynamic because he kept trying to like go not use his crutches for a while. And I was like,
That's also I had a client. I didn't see them as a couple, but the client was like, my husband's real mad because he knows I'm not going to follow the directions. And he doesn't want us paying all this money if I'm not going to follow the
Mm,
directions. And I was like, do you think you're not going to follow the directions? She's like, well,
yeah, bad
maybe.
idea.
And so I was like, ooh, let's talk about that because if he has a point there, and I think more it was like she was gonna have surgery like on a Friday and go back to work on Monday. She was gonna like stay out of the gym, but she probably could walk on the treadmill. Part of it is, I think, coping skill to deal with, like, she in her mind she wanted it to not be that bad. And I kind of knew once she had the surgery, which she did, and this is how it worked out. She didn't go back to work on Monday. She didn't go back to the gym or walk on the treadmill.
No.
It's like she did what she was supposed to do, but her mind to get her to the finish line was like, it's gonna be no big deal. It's fine. So I think her husband was getting like a feeling of like, are you not taking this seriously?
Seriously, yeah.
Are you just gonna do whatever? And so I would say, yeah, there's something in your dynamic where your support person um is like senses something about it that they're like,
Well, they've been around you a long time. Like,
yeah.
especially us married. So, like, technically, I'm still married. We haven't signed papers yet. So, like, fucking, that's the deal. Like, them after, I would say, like, 5 years into marriage, a lot. And you can kind of predict things and you can see how their behaviors are and, like, how they're going to react. So, yeah, I knew, like, for my situation, I was like, I know Eric's not going to follow fucking directions. Like, he's just not going to, he's not one of those. So,
That's
like,
that's a good point, Mel. And it's funny because pretty recently, like in the last few months, I had a lady who um didn't admit to smoking, and then come to find out she was smoking, and we nicotine test everyone. And she tested negative. But then I think her sister-in-law or someone who was person kind of helping her come to her visits, she comes to the pre-op or the morning of surgery, and she's like, well, she does hookah, right? And so I was like, oh, that's a big no-no. Like, you cannot be doing that. And
You have to cancel it the day of.
we didn't end up canceling it because her nicotine test was negative, so she couldn't have been doing that much. But I did
Okay.
tell her,
So
I
you
was like,
just told her no more. No more
I was like,
hookah.
don't do it anymore. I told her, but then so I told her, but having known that her sister-in-law at one of the previous appointments was like, she doesn't listen to instructions very well. I got done marking her, it was just her and I, and she admitted that. I went back and I told the sister-in-law, I was like, I told her no smoking for 6 weeks, so I'm going to make sure you. So sometimes as a surgeon, like if you find out that patients aren't following directions, I'm going to make sure I tell the caretaker, like, hey, make sure they're not smoking, or if it's something like I don't think they're going to listen to, not listen necessarily, but a lot of times I'll tell the caretaker, make sure they get up and walk 3 times a day, because they're not going to want to, but you're going to have to make them so that they don't get blood clots, right? And those can be
right.
fatal if they go to your lungs. So kind of like big things I want to make sure I tell the family member or friend or whoever's with them the day of surgery.
A question real quick with the walking around, just because I thought of it, would you recommend like walking like every 2 hours, every hour? Like, what would you recommend when you're out?
We usually, the first few days, depending on how big the surgery is, I want people to do it at least 3 times a day. If you can do that, then you're set. If
How
you
much
can do it
walking
more,
is that?
I tell 5-10 minutes,
Okay.
3 times a day.
I
Yeah.
just like walked. I remember for one of them,
Do laps in your living room. If the weather's nice outside, go outside,
Yeah.
get some fresh air.
we were at a hotel and I just walk up and down the
The
hallway. In
hallway.
the middle of the
Yeah.
night, I was like kind of in pain. So I'm up, I'm walking, and like someone had opened their door and they're like, it's the Mayo Clinic Hospital Hotel. So we're all here for some reason.
Right.
And the guy's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I had surgery he's like, oh, I had surgery too. I got to walk. Cause I think he was coming out to walk too.
Yeah. I
But
mean, pace your living room, pace a hallway, go outside if the weather's
get one of
nice and
those
you
little
can tolerate
peddlers.
it.
Little peddler.
What's that?
The little peddlers. Sometimes we use that in bariatric surgery if someone can't walk.
Yes. Yes.
So you can put it on the table and use it with your hands, or you sit down and use it with your legs. It's good for like the up and down motion.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
Do
actually a good way to
something.
period. Like if I was at home just doing this, my arms would get so crazy.
So I would say other than that, like not historical patterns like needing therapy, it may also be like your friends coming to help you and your friends like, I'm not a nurse.
Right.
I think sometimes people are worried. They're like, I don't have the expertise to help you. This could be a spouse too. And it's like, it's okay. The majority of and again, that's just like bringing in more education or truly asking. Cause I think I've definitely had situations where somebody said yes, the person helping them who doesn't really want to. And the person is kind of getting a sense of like, the patient is getting a sense of like, I think they may not. And then this actually happened to a friend of mine. Her friend was going to help her. She had a breast augmentation. And then her friend just didn't show up the day of
Oh my God.
and was
Whoa.
like, "I'm really sorry. I just can't do this. This is a lot. You're gonna be at my house." So they actually, they came and hung out with me. We like figured out like I couldn't get them to and from, but then they could come like hang out at my house, and it was fine. This is actually before I had bariatric surgery. It was an old roommate of mine, which is kind of funny. Like we were friends, but not like super cool. But I was like, yeah, no, if you can like figure that part out,
You
you can
get
come chill at
transferred.
my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew her dog. She lived with me before. I'm like, yeah, bring the dog. Like,
That
we'll figure it
sucks,
out.
man.
But
Fucking
yeah, and then that like killed. Obviously, that was like the end of their like because if she wasn't able to figure that out, um, then she would have lost the like deposit. Like
Yeah, I mean, we don't do surgery if you don't show up with someone, or we can call someone and confirm, hey, are you coming to pick this patient
and you
up?
can't take an Uber
You cannot take an Uber. Yeah, you can't
or a
drive
taxi.
yourself. Um,
nor
I had
should
a
you.
patient once. I had a patient once. He shows up. I think he told us his brother was going to pick him up. We do the surgery. After surgery, we find out his brother is like in a different state. We had to admit him overnight because he couldn't drive home. And then the truth comes out that he drove himself to the hospital that morning. He basically planned this all along, right? He drove himself to the hospital that morning, was gonna drive himself home. Like, you can't drive yourself home. You've had narcotics, like, and so the next morning I was like, we can't give you any narcotics if you're gonna drive home. So we didn't give him any narcotics. We gave him like Celebrex and Tylenol, and then sent him on his way.
And
But
then
you
he
know, we
probably need to
waited.
go to the pharmacy, so he's gonna sit and wait at the. I'm like, oh, this is such a bad idea.
I
What's
mean,
the
just
what's
not a good. And then the next time he had multiple rounds. The next time I was like, make sure if you are going to need to be admitted, this is the last surgery you get. So I think he kind of learned his, like, he, wasn't going to fool us twice type thing. So
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
like, no,
and
caught on
if
me, sir.
that's known beforehand, there are services and people and professionals that you can utilize, but it's like you've got to. So like some people may choose, I have a really supportive partner, and I still want to have
a nurse's
someone
aide
else.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is what I would do. Is actually not what I would do. That's what I'm going to do is have like an actual person that's dealt with this like to help me. I'm like, no, I don't want someone just like my mom, like, yeah, she could probably do a really great job. She worked for hospice, but like I I want someone that's actually like has done plastic surgery. Like,
Which I think, especially given your history and probably some fears you have around wounding, like that's probably like actual physical wounding, not like heart wounding.
yeah,
Because you're gonna be fine. I
right.
don't think you're gonna go into like having terrible wound healing issues. You're quite healthy.
I really don't
Um,
think so either, just because I heal really well, just period. Anyways, so I'm actually kind of excited to see what it will look like. But like I want, yeah, because of my trauma, I'm like, nope.
which makes sense. You've literally dealt with wound vacs and like I totally understand because you've lived the nightmare that is like stuff won't close up and stuff won't heal and
Yeah,
yeah.
it's wild. Like I felt like I was in a Grey's Anatomy fucking episode. Like this is insane.
And sometimes with clients, we talk about this feeling of like, should I confront it or just figure it out? So, like,
Right.
should I go through therapy and like be cool with like whatever can happen, and I don't have to worry about when, or do I just hire the person and like
Maybe
it's
that's
fine, and then I feel reassurance? Because sometimes you may want to confront it and be like, I'm not gonna allow this fear to change how I act, or we say this is a reasonable fear. I have a reasonable, like, it's not going to put me into great debt for Stephanie to come hang with me.
right.
Like, so we're just going to do it. And like, that's okay. Cause sometimes people are like, I'm not healed. I'm like, none of us are healed. Like, what's your tolerance level for it? Like, it's fine. Like, at the end of the day, it's like, are you putting yourself at greater risk? Cause sometimes, like, people coming in and be like, I know I have this fear and I just like, fuck it, I'm gonna do whatever.
Mhm.
And then their wound does open up because they're like, it'll be fine. Like, it's like we don't want that either.
No,
Like,
we don't. We got to have some happy medium there.
and I think that's what I was thinking. It's like, great. And you happen to know someone who's does it professionally who's wonderful. So it just makes sense.
Oh, totally. Like, guys, like we said, it's bariatricwarriorsupport.com. Like, she will come to you, and she will help you.
Super reasonable. She told me how much she charges. I was shocked. I was like, girl, you need like another zero on that.
You need to send me that information. Actually, I don't need to. Like, she'll I'll get the friends and family discount. That's for sure.
She's in Orlando. Is she in Orlando?
No, she is in Asheville, but she flies
Oh,
to
Asheville.
you.
She flies.
So she comes out, I think, like day or two before, and then hangs with you as long as you need her to hang with you. So, and that's her like full-time job.
That's her full-time job. I was going to ask that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Which is super cool. Like, and I know like that would give me like the reassurance, guys. Like I have support. Like that's the deal, is like we want you to have the right support, but also like what's right for you. Just because I have people that can support me doesn't make me feel like I'm supported 100%. Like there is a
Yeah.
way to do that, and to figure out which one's yours, I think is just what's important. Because it could be just like how yours is your mother-in-law, you know, like I don't think she has nursing experience. So yeah. So like for
Nope.
me, it's like, I want someone that I know and has had nursing experience. So
yeah, she's a good listener. She's a very good a rule follower. She takes a lot of notes.
there you go.
And then she like doesn't go anywhere. So she just chills with me and we watch Netflix. But I will also say too, sometimes this is not the time to like try to fix relationship issues. So if it is best for the two of you to just hire the person, have someone else come in, do the thing, and it's going to be too like I think of too if you know maybe having your partner tell you like a very parental like you have to get up and walk, they said you have to walk, and that's just gonna create a lot of friction, and it just isn't like again you don't feel it's worth the risk of what it could like cool
Yeah, just
like
be
have
upfront
someone
about
else come in, get a hotel, do something else. It is okay. It doesn't mean your relationship is terrible, your partner sucks, you suck as a part, like because people have a lot of feelings about they're like, well, if we were good we would be able to work through this. I'm like, or maybe right now is not the time.
it. Yeah.
I had a client with bariatric surgery who had like 6 kids, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't think you should be home for your
No.
recovery because I know you. You're gonna take care of your 6 kids, and like right
Yeah.
now, you got to take care of you and not your 6 kids."
At this time, literally you just had surgery.
Yeah, and
Like,
so it was like, okay, and I knew her surgeon was probably going to keep her overnight to simply ensure that she had time to take care of herself.
yep.
She had a lot of little kids too, so I'm like, no, like we're gonna send you over to your sister's house, wherever.
Wherever you feel safe. That's basically where you need to go.
Right. So I'm gonna help you protect yourself from yourself.
Protect
So
yourself.
Protect yourself before you
trying
wreck.
to think other
Yes.
situations that we can
Hoping
like
someone
talk
was going to
about.
finish that.
So
Sorry,
You
Ashley.
and Dr.
Mel
Beidas.
and I are having a side conversation.
Well, is there anything left that we should cover about support? Like what
that's what I was thinking. Or like when
you think we might have missed?
it's perfectly okay to seek out therapy specifically for this. If these are conversations that you are struggling to have, if these are conversations that you want to have but you feel would be best with a third party, these are perfectly fine conversations to attempt by yourself. This may not need professional intervention, and that's also fine.
I think talking. I mean, I think Ashley, you said this too, right? Is like talk about it with your partner. I mean, it's probably a good idea to talk about it even before your plastic surgery consultation, right? Sit down and have the conversation. Like, hey, this is what it might cost. This is what I'm thinking. This is why I want to do this. And maybe hear your partner out or family,
Yes,
friends, whatever.
because this is also important that your partner understands, like truly understands the why behind
The
it.
why, yeah.
That this isn't just about, I don't know, whatever they think it's about, some kind of vanity thing. That this truly is like the continuation of a journey that feels like it needs to have a different ending point.
Right.
That it really, I think about for a long time, I wasn't going to get my arms done, but like it was the last part of me that you could see and you knew I was previously obese. Like there was no question that I had lost a bunch of weight. And for whatever reason, that bothered me a lot more than I thought it would. And so when my husband and I were talking about it, and he's just like, well, you look real great. You got the first part done you got that part done. You look good. And I'm like, yeah, but there's just this thing about that and not being like feeling like everyone knows and that I can just present as who I am now. And that's who I've always been. There was something about that. And even then I had a hard time verbalizing it, but I think he understood what I was talking about.
I think also the other thing, it ties into support and all that, but is just because you don't see whatever it is as a problem, like, I don't know, Ashlyn, if your husband didn't think like your arms were a problem, that doesn't mean it's not a problem for the patient. So,
Right.
let them be them. And again, if they're not doing it for bad reasons, like, again, most people aren't gonna get a tummy tuck and go get a new husband. If they're doing it for the right reasons, then I think you should support them. So
Well,
Yeah. And if,
oh,
go ahead.
I was saying, what I do in my relationships and even sometimes friendships is like I'll just say a temperature check, and you just check in real quick, figure out where everyone's at on that subject, and just work on it. Like, just be kind when you're talking about subjects with when you know like it's sensitive. Just go in and like curiosity. Like Ashlyn, I've used that so many times. It works. It works with Dylan. It's worked with business partners. Like it works. So like
you
going
kind
in
of
with,
pause and say temperature check, or do you
I'll say, yeah, I'll literally
like, how's
pause and
everyone
um,
feeling in their?
check. Yeah. But
but
the
I think,
whole saying I'm curious, be like, hey, I'm really curious about this. Like, can you tell me like what's going on? Like it
I like that.
really helps.
because if you think about kids, one of the ways that I often use this in therapy is like for a lot of us, what was really hurtful in childhood is that parents made an assumption about something and then the next step. So you got in trouble because of something that wasn't quite right, or they didn't really get your side of the story or whatever. So that can be very hurtful in adulthood. And so being able to say, like, hey, that didn't really make sense to me. Your reaction like didn't make sense or whatever. Can you tell me like what was going on for you or like what was happening there? Cause like I'm not quite sure. So the same thing, it's like, I think your arms look fine. Could you tell me like more about like what's behind that? Because like they're just not that bad. Or you could wear a longer shirt or whatever. And then having curiosity, like I'm wondering what is different for you because what I'm seeing is this. And then it like starts again, it's like pulling them into the conversation.
Ashlyn, I have another question kind of related to, I think, Mel, you asked me this question, right? Do you think, my assumption is if a spouse is coming to the consultation, they're supportive. I think most of the time when
Right.
they come, they are. Um, Maybe there's some times where they're coming because maybe they're not supportive, but they want to hear the surgeon, see what it's about.
Advertising.
But again, I think I would imagine having the conversation sooner and bringing your spouse, especially if they, or your partner, we keep saying spouse, partner, friends, family, whatever, mom, dad, to the consult, I think can be a way to engage them and make them feel like, hey, I think as a patient, if you tell them, I think it's important for you to come, or I think it's important for you to come with me, I'd like you to come with me so you can hear this out and weigh in and all that. I don't know if that's helpful, you think, in some
Yeah.
patients, or
Or like those questions that you have that maybe I don't have the answer for.
Mhm.
Let's ask them. So if
Let's
you're
ask
really
them together.
concerned about me dying, let's ask them together
Yeah.
what we can do to help prevent that, what's the likelihood it would, why do people die during this, what are we doing to
How many
safeguard
have you
that?
killed? No, I'm kidding.
Do you
That too.
honestly like tell them?
I did tell those patients who asked, yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to lie. I have fortunately never had anyone die in the operating room. I've had two patients pass away within, let's say, 30 to 45 days of surgery.
Oh,
And one was in her pool. She drowned like within 30 days. So she either drowned or she was found in her pool. So I guess we don't know. They didn't do an autopsy. She either drowned or had like a heart attack or PE, which either one of those is possible.
yeah.
And that
And
wouldn't
then
be
one,
related
sorry.
to surgery. That wouldn't be related, maybe the PE,
If
but
she had an MI or heart attack, it could be, like a PE you can have within 30 days, if you have a DVT and it goes to your
right.
lungs. But again, but then, like, what are the chances she drowned in her pool? Again, they didn't do an autopsy, so um, no one was ever sued or anything. Um,
I would
and
never.
the other one died again within 30 to 45, maybe 60 days of surgery, in her sleep. So again, probably another one of those like MI or PEs, and she had a significant cardiac history, so she could have had an MI in her sleep.
So
But
she
Were
had
fortunately, no
those
one ever in the
gender
OR.
affirming or those were cosmetic?
No, one was a breast cancer patient,
Hmm.
and one was a post bariatric patient.
Hmm.
I did have one who also overdosed and kind of ended up dying, but that was like months and months after surgery. That was a very sad story. We didn't know she was a drug user.
Well, I wondered too if that maybe some of that was that like body dysphoria, like it didn't fix the thing she thought it was going to fix.
I think she'd had a history when we kind of got the whole story from the parents and the family, but this was like months after we'd done anything for her. But then as we heard that, it reminded me of like when she was in the hospital. We had heard like she was in the hospital like 2 or 3 days after a pretty simple, like pretty basic procedure that 99.9% of my patients go home with like the day of, and now
Right.
she's here 3 days later. And this is what I mean. At first, we didn't really think much of it, but then I thought back after I found out that she was a drug user. Apparently, the nurse had called my PA and said that she was setting a time. The patient was setting a timer every 2 or 3 or 6 hours, or however often she could get the IV medication. She set an alarm on her phone and then like ring the call button. Um, and at the time, the answer was, okay, take away the IV medications. Like, she doesn't need to be in the hospital anymore. And we suspected some drug use, but then she went home, and again, this was months and months and months later, we found out that she was a drug user and an overdose and died, unfortunately. So,
And it's tough too, because what we find sometimes is people who abuse pain medication have much lower thresholds for pain. And so
mhm.
it can be a very hard and
Yes, it's a
cyclical.
very difficult, yes, they're
Yeah.
very
Because
difficult to
even like
control.
under general anesthesia, they have hard, and they're
Hmm.
not upping like more and more and more. They just don't respond. It's
Redheads
an
too.
interesting. Pain medication addiction is fascinating on many levels. Um,
I
Another
have a question
conversation
for you
another
too
day.
about that. Like, you guys would know more about this. So not always, as what I've observed with oxy abuse and that kind of IV abuse, is it's like they don't want to feel any pain. So if they feel anything, it could be small,
Well, and the
immediately
hard thing is when they come off of it, even when they didn't have pain initially, like chronic pain, they will start to feel chronic
they
pain,
will.
which
Yeah.
then enforces or reinforces taking the pain medication. Even in clients that like aren't addicted on like at that level. Um, so again, like psychoeducation, we should probably do an entire
Should do a
episode on
separate
pain
episode on this.
management.
Yeah.
So like pain management, the whole spectrum, because I do think I do have clients who have definitely said the reason that I haven't done this yet is I'm way too concerned about pain. And
Oh,
I
so
don't know how I will manage post, and I'm afraid in the current climate where maybe large hospital systems have like a no opiate policy or something, that they're afraid of, like, how will I manage that? And again, like, we need to communicate and talk about it, but like, and then what are the conversations? Because it's very hard to convince people that this like skin removal surgery is probably not as painful as they think, especially without muscle repair. But, like, that seems crazy. You're gonna cut my skin and sew it back together. How could that not be pain? But it's like, it's weird. It's hard
I
to.
joke, not joke, tell people it's kind of like taking off a big mole.
yeah.
Some
But that's
people
the funny thing.
don't
And I
people don't find
remember
the humor in that.
when I had the pandectomy without muscle repair, I remember waking up being like,
Madonna?
"This is it?" And then
Yeah.
days I'm like, "Oh, it's gonna come."
Yeah.
And then it never did. And I was like, How?" And I remember going back, and the surgeon's like, It's just skin removal. Like, it's not. I didn't do any
Yeah.
muscle.
I
Like,
mean,
you're
most people
totally
have cut,
fine."
you've cut your finger, it burns, it hurts a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think most patients find that it is a lot less painful than they anticipated. And we have a pretty good pain regimen. We should do a whole episode on this. I think
Yeah.
Yeah, that will be
that's
coming up, guys, because I have a million and one questions about it, because that's one of my fears, is that like, and it's not the fact that I just don't know what I can tolerate. It's been a long time since I've had any medical things happen. So like, I don't know what the threshold's like. And I get like, you're going to be in some pain. I just don't want to be in such amount of pain to where I regret my decision. And I know that there's like, sometimes that happens a little bit, but
I will say patients who've had like bariatric surgery, the reference point is helpful, but probably 99% of my patients say that the plastics is much easier than the bariatrics.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Or if you had a C-section, honey,
Or oh yeah,
we went
C-section,
through
everyone's
muscle
like,
for that.
yep.
That's
No, I
far
did
worse.
it.
Like,
I did
essentially,
it.
when people come for like bariatric surgery and they had a C-section or repeat C-section, I was like, "Oh, honey, you're gonna be fine." They had a
Yeah,
gallbladder out. You're
agreed.
gonna be fine.
Yeah, no, all
It was
natural
much
over
better.
here. So that one's not. But I did have, my leg broken. So, and then with that that was fucking gnarly, just because like there's a week before I could have surgery. And so like anytime I would go to the bathroom, I'd have to like prop up the leg, right? And I could feel the bone move. Like I could feel it shift.
Yeah.
It was the
Nothing like that.
craziest. So
It made me
I didn't
fluid.
even take narcotics with that. So
Honey, you're gonna be
you'll be
fine.
fine. You'll be
You're gonna
fine.
be
because I
fine.
was really scared of them. And so I remember being in the office with a guy and I was like, I'm in a lot of pain, but I'm really scared. And he goes, have you taken anything today? And I go, no. And he goes, I'll be right back. And I was like,
And there are alternatives to opiates. There's there's a lot of options out there. Like I take liquid Valium, which is not abnormal, but I have a weird thing with my liver that I can't take opiates. Benzodiazepines are not normally pain management, but like there are options out there outside of opiates. And if you're someone who has a history of opiate abuse, there's a way we can work around that too. A lot of communication, and we'll talk about that for sure in the episode, because just because you have a narcotic abuse history doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't be able to
use
have
it for medical.
bariatric surgery or skin removal surgery.
So that's fair. Well, I love this episode. I was a little skeptical, like we'd have enough to talk about on the opposite end of this. And like, no, like there's so much
of us can
about
talk.
support.
Me in particular, I could talk.
That's a true story.
I don't think we're ever going to get this under an hour. So put that out there. Ever.
Well, that's totally fine. Well, thank you guys for listening. As always, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. And all of our contact information is in the description. So in the show notes, you can find us. You click on our links. You can go to our pages. We are there to help you. We are not gatekeeping information. So make sure you take advantage of it. And until next time, guys, be safe.
Bye.
Bye.